what drew you to hot and cold exposure and a desire in general to induce stress in the form of temperature to make that a part of your life for long-term benefits?
Great question. Right out the gate, per usual. I read a book in 2015 or 2016 by Scott Carney, I believe, What Doesn't Kill Us or What Does Not Kill Us, something along those lines. And it was a deep dive into really this topic. It's the things that we as humans adapt to over time, and how stressors, these little stressors, mini stressors, helped to create a more strong, vital, harder to kill, right, human being. And ultimately, I was interested in the sauna. Kind of got into the sauna by chance. The gym I joined in 2015 with a couple buddies I was working out with at the time had a sauna, and it was part of our morning routine. You get the lift in, pop in the sauna for 10, 15 minutes, get a sweat, get a shower, change, go to work, right? And that was a nice little routine a couple days a week, but it started to feel good. And in the beginning, it was super hot, and then it got to a point where you could sit in there for like 30 minutes, and there's always an old dude or old woman in the sauna who is just immune to heat. And they're in there in some tiny towel, and they've been in there for an hour, and you're in there for 30 minutes, and they're still in there, and it doesn't even look like they're sweating, or they're just drenched in sweat and just taking it, right? And it's that, it's the adaptation that got me curious. It's like, man, how can we adapt to this? How can people withstand cold? How can people withstand these long distances that they run or exercise? Or how can people withstand this amazing, or crazy heat, right? And ultimately, those things drew me to starting to experiment with hot and cold. And, here we are with a sauna and a hot tub and a cold freezer all in the spot, because it's great.
It's not a sauna if there's not balls and breasts of wisdom just full of wrinkles out and about, just showcased to the world. That is a mainstay in any sauna. And I'm learning how you mentioned being with other people in the sauna and kind of starting out in what sounds like a social environment where you were seeking to kind of heat up with friends and other strangers going in and out of the sauna that just happened to be there. I'm learning how much of a social environment it can be, especially since I'm in the Netherlands right now. I'm recording this in Maastricht, and I just got finished with an experience at this place called Therme 2000. It's like a sauna oasis, and I'll get into more details about that later. But it started out in a similar way for me, where I was down at school at University of Richmond, had been in a sauna maybe once or twice as a teenager, just going on vacations with the family, went in, stayed in for 5 minutes, went back out, didn't think anything about it. And so I was in the Weinstein Center, the Health and Fitness Center at University of Richmond, which you know very well also. And I was experiencing the normal stresses of being a student athlete that, hundreds of other people at the school were also dealing with. And I started going into the sauna at night. So I started studying and being in the actual fitness center. So there were a bunch of these study rooms attached to the fitness center. And I would find myself taking breaks, going to the sauna, cold shower in the locker room adjacent to it, drying off, going back out, and doing that every few hours, especially around finals week, if it was just an absolute grind where you knew your entire day was like 12 to 16 hours of just doing these kind of mental sprints of trying to learn shit at the last second that you're supposed to be doing in a marathon fashion throughout the semester.
Right.
I chose the sprint in the last week.
As most of us do. Yeah, many of us do.
Yeah. I started using the sauna without knowing the specific benefits. I knew it was good for me. I knew it felt good for me. I had read some of the headlines of the literature. I did not know any of the actual details, and my body and mind realized these breaks in some way where I would go in the sauna and I would feel good, and it would allow me to study more. It would allow me to sleep better with my eyes, having just stared at a screen for 12 hours. And that was my first introduction, kind of the the sophomore year, around that area, maybe a little towards the end of freshman year, but sophomore year, really making the sauna a regular part of my studying routine. It wasn't even so much for baseball at that point, because I played baseball at Richmond as well, but it was more just to kind of like get my mind to be able to refocus with the sauna, to kind of relax, the cold shower to sharpen it up, and get back into the room, go for another 3-4 hours, and go eat and do the sauna again. So my introduction was also kind of in the social fashion slash educational fashion, because I would go in with a bunch of other guys, probably 3 or 4 other guys in the study hall. We would go down to the sauna, take a break, go back to work. And years later, I find myself looking into the details of why it's actually beneficial to you, and knowing the reasons behind it, which we're going to get into today in great detail.
Hell yeah. And, that contrast between the hot, cold, and, how you felt, I imagine you felt more awake. Imagine you felt more like energized, vitalized, alive, right? That's something that is accessible, right? Pretty much at any time to us. You can go into take a shower, take a normal shower, flip it to cold. And if you're in Houston during the summer, it's not going to work nearly as well as if you're in New York in the winter, right? Like where you are matters, but largely you're going to be able to get a contrast, and that's a quick, easy intro into this type of stuff for people. And I imagine we'll get into some tips and tricks at some point as well, but that contrast and that feeling of vitality and clearness and like aliveness, I felt that in Iceland. I don't know, did you do any hot, cold experiences in Iceland?
I went into the natural hot springs in Iceland.
Nice.
I was there about 2 years ago.
Awesome. I was there 4 or 5 years ago. I did the same thing. There was a spot with a name that's like, it's on the southern coast of Iceland, and it's probably 26 letters long, right, is this name. And
yeah, with a bunch of dots overused. And
exactly. Schellabergalag or something like that, right? Sorry to everyone.
Sounds right.
Icelandics. Yeah, exactly. But they had this one of the oldest natural hot spring baths, right? So they've got a geothermal kind of tub that they've made a little pool there, and then there's a stream that runs right in front of it. And you can see that the water from the stream is coming off of like ice cap melts, like in this little valley. It's this little like valley that you kind of like walk up into about a mile, and then you're maybe a quarter of the way up, and then that's where this pool is. And I did the hot cold back and forth, and the water couldn't have been more than 33, 34 degrees. I mean, like the sides of the stream on both sides are ice. There's ice on the rocks. The water's flowing in the middle. I found a little pool section. It wasn't like that fast or that deep. So I was able to get in, and I dunked my head. And going under that, man, is like, it's the difference between getting in like to your waist, first of all, getting your feet in, and then getting your balls in, right? Like when you get your private bits in, regardless of what those private bits may be, right? Like that's some serious, like that's the threshold, right? But then it's the head, right? The head becomes more like primal, because now that becomes into like evolutionarily, there's an oh fuck button that gets hit if your head dunks under icy water, right? You get your forehead on it, like it hurts. But then being able to go back there into the hot, right? And then doing that a couple times, bro, when I walked out, like that hike down, my eyes were like this, like wide open. I was hearing all kinds of sounds. I was alive, like to a T. There was something going on that made me, I was firing, right? And that was a real visceral, oh shit moment of like, this is powerful. Like I felt the power of hot and cold in that moment.
And you did just above freezing, right? You said it was 33, 34, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Which is fucking cold. Wild. I don't know if I've ever been in an ice bath that was right at the line of freezing. And from my own experiences of being in ice baths, or even just cold showers to a less extreme, knowing how sharply that hits you, and to be in a just above freezing ice bath in the middle of nature, like you said, it hits that kind of oh fuck reflex. But then you're also in Iceland, and you're surrounded by grass, and if it's anything like the spot I was at, there's bunch of goats and shit walking around, and it's incredibly green, and you get out and you, like you said, you feel sounds that stand out to me too. You mentioned hearing sounds that, even though I've never done anything that cold, I have had the experience of it's not a ringing, but it feels like my sense of sound and my sense of hearing is being heightened in some way, where I'm just picking up more things that I normally wouldn't pick up, or I'm noticing things that I normally wouldn't notice, and that extends to other senses beyond sound. But I really felt that when you mentioned sound, because that's also an experience that I've had as well. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. As a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full uncut 2+ hour episodes of the Auxoro podcast, plus gain access to 2 bonus episodes every month at auxoro.supercast.tech. Link is also in the description. Thank you so much for supporting quality content from independent creators like myself. Cheers.